So we are going to introduce the candidates for City Council joining us this evening. We are going to begin with Daniel Gardy. And I just want to note too that the candidates have 3 minutes for their opening remarks.
So good evening everyone. My name is Daniel Gardy, and today I'd like to speak something about motivation and why I decided to run for council of city of Salmar. I was born in a socialist country, Czechoslovakia, and I went through the Velvet Revolution back in 1989. I know there was narrative from one side and from another side. Since then, from my nature, I feel so much for injustice in this world, what's going on and what's happened there and these days as well. Back in November 2021, current city council brought a vaccine mandate for the city employees, same as the CCRD board. So we lost 47 firefighters in CCRD, some firefighters for the city, and some employees as well. I feel so with all those people which lost their jobs and income for the families, and that was a big red flag for me. Oh, what's going on in this beautiful country, which I just landed 7 years ago, and I was so surprised what's going on. So I started the petition after Christmas, and I collected over 600 signatures against that vaccine mandate. People talk to me, oh, I'm vaccinated, but I'm against the mandate. Should be everything about the choice. And the choice is most important about every free society. So I collected over 600 signatures, and I sent the delegation request form to the city, and I was refused to speak on front of the city council about another side of the mandatory vaccination, which is not maybe about the health, it's about the choice and obedience. I was refused by current leaders of the city to speak on front representative on this town, to say different opinion about these things which one divided us for the last 2-3 years. I believe city representatives like councillors and mayors should, in the hard time, bring community together so we can survive hard time, whatever happened worldwide, because we are living in a hard time. On another side, we can see there's also a lot of brightness because we can see deepest, we can see clearest what is the good, what is bad. I believe through hard work, I don't have experience with the municipal public affairs, but I was always interested for politics affairs. And I promise you hard work for all people. I'm Daniel Gardy, I'm running for the Council of City of Salmon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now have Debbie Cannon. There she is.
Hello. Hello, my name is Debbie Cannon, and in 2005 I was newly elected, my first year on council. Just over 16,000 residents and a budget of 20 million plus. I was on council from 2005 to 2014. I was re-elected 2018, fast forward 17 years. May 2021, the population recorded in the census increased by 9.6%, or just 1,726 people, to a population of just over 19,000. Salmon's jump of 9.7% is higher than BC's overall growth of 7.6%. and Salmon's budget is just over 40 million now. It is an exciting time in Salmon. We have just been discovered with this and we have lots of large capital infrastructure projects that we need to do. The wastewater treatment plant, a new pool, replacement of the Ross Street, or replacement of aging pipes in the ground. The Ross Street underpass will be complete in the spring of 2023. A new 10-year strategic plan has just been completed. We also need to do an update on our OCP, our official community plan. Also with this growth, we have a homeless population that has also increased. There is no easy fix with this, and it has been the question that has been asked all throughout the election. We have a very committed social issues committee that has worked hard and tireless with BC Housing to address this issue. So I think that we are working on it. I bring experience to the table, and I look for your support tomorrow at the advanced polls or October 15th at the election. And I would also like to add that our current council totally stood behind our policies during the pandemic, and I totally supported our decisions 100%. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now have Brian Fletcher.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Fletcher. I've decided to run for council this year. I'm a homeowner. I live in Salmar with my wife and my wife Mila, my 3 children, with Kai, Victor, and Sloan. I first came to Salmon Arm in 2006. Before I came here, and since then I've moved around a few places, lived in Australia, back to Alberta, lived in Kelowna while I was going to college, and I decided to come back. I really like Salmon Arm. Choosing to raise my family here. One thing I did see from the COVID pandemic was some poor leadership decisions, in my opinion, from the federal, provincial, and then looking into it from the local governments. We have a Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and it's not something that should be taken lightly. The rights and freedoms granted in it, or itself as a document, what it's guaranteed, what it stands for. A lot of those things seem to have been thrown to the wayside. You know, and a lot of it's in the name of the greater good, but, you know, what's the point if the means totally don't justify the ends? Like, so I started viewing recent council minutes because I figured with local government, something that I could have an effect on is something that's achievable for me to win. I came across the non-gendered washroom designation, and now this has been passed unanimously by current council, current leadership, and it just so happened to be at the same time that I'm teaching my daughter to use the washroom independently. And now I looked at the legislation and I read it multiple times, the definitions. And so I'm not sure, I'm supposed to just sit back and watch it fully intact male follow my 4-year-old daughter into a washroom and be okay with it? What's next? Like, where's this going? Where's the common sense? That being said, current leadership has put Salmon Arm in a relatively good place. Financially, they have made some good decisions. I'm here to provide a seemingly unrepresented conservative vote locally. You know, for legislation to be passed like that unanimously, and from the people I know in town, That is not at all the views of the people, and I'm here to provide a voice that is truly unrepresented. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just a quick note, the candidates please hold the mics closer to their mouths. We are having it broadcast by the Voice of the Shoe Swap, and so we want to be able to pick up everything that you do say this evening. Next up, we will have Kevin Flynn.
Thank you. As mentioned, my name is Kevin Flynn. I moved to the Shoe Shop in 1996. I got involved in the Chamber of Commerce very early. Okay, Kevin Flynn, there we go. Moved here in 1996, so I'm a relative newcomer in the Shoe Shop, 26 years. I got involved in the Chamber of Commerce in the first couple of years I was here, and then got involved in council in 2002. I run a financial planning and employee benefit business, and that business I work with my wife, who is here, Kathy, and my son, Chris, has started taking over that business. So I'm involved in the business community, I'm involved with employers, I'm involved with their employees selling employee benefit plans. I got involved because I wanted to make a difference in Salmon, and as I said, started with the chamber and then got elected to council. 5 terms, hoping for a 6th. I'm honored, and it is my pleasure to be supported by the community to serve in this role. I enjoy it. This has been, in my opinion, the best council I've been on, and we don't agree on everything, but we respect each other and make decisions in a democratic manner and respect each other after. We were asked, what are our 3 goals? And I've never gone into an election where I've been relatively successful with any of my goals in mind. I don't think that I should determine what should happen, except my one goal is to make this a better community for my kids and now my 2 grandkids who are being raised here. 2 wonderful grandsons. What I believe is our community corporate strategy that has been worked on for the last year that was released in August is what we at the council table should work to implement. It was developed with the community, with community groups, with council, with staff, and it was, is that my time or is that? And it was developed as a whole. And when I make decisions at that table, we have had last strategic plan plasticized and it's at our table. It tells me what the short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals are that staff, the community, council, and community groups want us to work on. Yellow means 30 seconds. Okay. Alan, you would love to have this. Anyway, my goal at that table is to execute this community plan in a fiscally responsible, positive, and professional manner. And I ask for your support for a positive experience out of the table to give me a 6th term. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now have David Vanella come up.
Hello, I'm David Vanella. I'm running for council. For those on the radio right now, hello. And I'd like to describe myself as strikingly handsome. Obviously, we might differ here in person, but I try my best. Why am I in council? Why am I running for council? That's a good question. I think for me, it became a calling. The last few years, for many of us, have been very trying. We've all battled with our own, just trying to find our place. How do we want to react? How do we find the understanding of what's happening? I think it's been a trial for everyone in the community, the elderly to kids at school. But what I think I want to bring is a fresh approach. Since coming here in 2007 with my wife Ellen to raise a family, it was very important to be a part of this community. It's very important to me to make sure that everyone in our community, first as a market cause of Manitoba Municipal Festival, which I am the executive director of, is that all the people there are taken care of. I think that's been my approach since day one, since I've been here, and it's part of my personality. I tend to be someone who is quite level-headed. I approach things first as someone who listens, because I do not believe I have all the answers. I think, as Kevin Flynn noted, it's very difficult to have goals that you can just pitch to someone, here I am on a stage for the next 4 years. I think that's a fool's errand at best. What I think I can tell you is I'll do my best. I'll make sure that you're listened to and that I have experience. I have experience with multi-million-dollar budgets. I have experience coming from a position of high debt. The first year I arrived back, Roots and Blues, after a 2 years hiatus, we were $175,000 in the hole. And over the years, we put ourselves back in our feet to become one of the largest live shows in the interior, which I'm very proud of. And getting there, I've had to find money from private sources, from obviously selling tickets, very important, but also looking for money through federal funds, provincial funds. And that's the approach I'll take now as your future council member in Salmon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will now have Deb Hockdahl.
Over the past few years, I've watched various directives. Can't hear you. It's on. Okay. How they've affected the lives and livelihoods of many of us. I've realized the national and local directives have not become actually for the health and welfare of human beings. People died, and they died alone because of isolation. And kids got depressed when they couldn't go to school and play with their friends. And my granddaughter, who was born in March 2020, was afraid when she saw a face, because faces all of a sudden were not normal. Our community and country also lost many small businesses who were trying to enforce directives that were detrimental to business. My heart goes out to all of the municipal, provincial, and federal employees who found themselves with the choice to follow a mandate or forfeit their careers. With all the information now available, the fact that these mandates have not been reversed in British Columbia or this city is a reason to change the council. All of this seriously affected me to a point that I'm standing here today trying to be part of a council that will work intentionally to bring a sense of healthy community back to Salmon. A council that listens to the people so the city decisions do not cause us harm. City Hall is a place to serve. That role is an honor I will not take lightly. I am not a politician. I'm a thinker, a listener, a questioner, and a doer. I'm willing to research and look for a better way. I'm a grandparent determined to heal this world with my grandchildren. Salmon is full of people with amazing skills and abilities, and there are also agencies doing fantastic things. City Council, working with the community, can address all of our concerns. Together we can protect the children, and they need protecting. We will support our local farmers and businesses. We will take responsibility for our own health, and together we'll assist addicts into recovery and homeless into work. Why didn't they close this shelter? I'm committed with your help to develop a solution for the affordable housing. This is necessary for young families and retirees in this area. Affordable housing is so crucial to help businesses attract workers of all levels. And they're needed in our community. I deeply care for my friends, family, and community. And this is why I'm here. Vote for me, and I'll work with each of you, each and every one of you. And I want to hear your ideas, and I want to implement solutions to the needs of this city. I'm Debbie.
Can I please remind everyone to silence their phones so we do not get interrupted? Thank you. And we're now going to have Robert Johnson.
I don't really want to follow that. Yeah, so I am basically running because I was asked to. It's weird, but because there's some people seem to think that I'm some kind of a voice for some people that are unwilling or unable to do what I've been doing for the past 2.5 years. But you know, I've paid a pretty high price for that, and I kind of feel like I don't have anything to lose at this point, and I'm kind of just doing this for my kids because my opinion is that pretty much everything that's gone on for the past 2.5 years at every level of government has been illegal, unethical, and immoral. And as a healthcare worker, oh, it's Dr. Robert Johnson, by the way. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that or not. I don't really care about the title, and I think we should either. I hope some of you figured that out in the last 2 years. But sorry, I forgot to say. I forgot something very important. I'm going to steal a page from Dr. Roger Hodgkinson and I'm going to be brutal because these are brutal times. So yeah, I just think that ultimately at the end of the day, I mean, to me the fundamental issue in this election is, do you want to live in a free country or not? Like the tyranny and authoritarianism that's gone on for the past 2.5 years is pretty insane to me. So I'm not willing to live in post-truth world or clown world, I call it. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, so as far as my whole thing is I just believe in integrity, right? Like you have to act according to your beliefs. And so I know I don't want to criticize anybody. I don't know what's going on behind closed doors in the council here, but like I said, to me, most of the stuff that's gone on has been unacceptable. So yeah, I'm just here to try to represent a dissenting voice, I guess. And I honestly don't know. I joke that I feel like I'm one of the most loved and most hated people. I'm a kind of a polarizing figure, I guess, and I don't know where the split is. I don't know where the society's at. So, anyways, like I said, that's who I am. That's what I'm about. That's why I'm here. So, appreciate you guys' time, and talk to you later on. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. I just want to say thank you to the organizers and to the people that have attended tonight. This is a really important part of our democratic process, and I appreciate your participation. I think probably most of the people in the room here already know who I am. My name is Sylvia Lindgren. I am a youth and family worker with the school district and a first-term councillor seeking re-election. I grew up in a middle-class, working-class family. I've lived in Salmon for 28 years. I'm a wife, mother, grandmother, employee. I've been an employer. I had my own business. I've worked mostly in healthcare and education. I used to be a union president for 5 years, and I ran in 2 provincial elections. So, contrary to what you might be hearing tonight, this is not a single issue election. I was elected to council in 2018, and we've done so much. Over the last 4 years, we have been successful in bringing the first electric vehicle to the fleet for the city of Salmon, including charging in the parkade. We have approved ungendered single-stall washrooms, in case that helps Mr. Fletcher feel better about his daughter. The city has become a living wage employer. We've done an energy audit. We've hired an asset manager who will help us focus on climate action. We've made recommendations on tree bylaws and pesticide bylaws. We've approved 800 units of housing. We've kept the tax increase low while increasing the budget for roads and sidewalks because you said that was important. We've almost finished the Ross Street underpass, and we had one of the first plastic bag bans in the province. So these were all done under the restrictions of the pandemic. It was no easy task, but we did it. But one of the most important things that I think that we did was that we built new and forged more relationships with the province, with our community partners, and with the First Nations bands around our community. Those are the relationships that are going to help us move towards our goals together. In the next 4 years, I'd like to start working more on a climate action plan. I'd like to see bike lanes come to fruition and the West Bay Trail get started. I want to increase density by building up, not out, so we can preserve trees and keep our green spaces. But to accomplish all of that, we need to be working together. And in order to work together, I think we need to come together. I don't know if you're aware, but Shane Poizan was in town today speaking at the high school. He's a spoken word poet, made famous doing his speech at the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver. I'm Canadian. And he spoke, he did a piece about 9 months ago that he wanted to sort of reflect on where we were in the pandemic and his feelings of isolation and his hope for the future. And he called it Tomorrow. And it was about what can we look forward to tomorrow. And listening to that, I realized that our country, our planet has gone through the worst global
Next up, we have Louise Wallace-Richmond.
Good evening. Thank you so much for being here. Tonight is about our shared priorities as a city and less about our personal ones. I'm going to use my few minutes to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Louise Wallace-Richmond. I live in Canoe. I teach part-time at Okanagan College. I've served on many nonprofit boards in this community, and I've owned a small marketing and design business since 1999 when I moved here. The first time I was elected, I remember my opening remarks from that electoral forum. I shared with you that Salmon had taught me many things. It taught me how to build community. It taught me how to raise a family. It taught me how to run a business. It taught me how to collaborate, to contribute, and get things done. And I talked about how grateful I was for those lessons. And I'm still grateful every single day. Tonight, I'd like to share with you what being on Salmon Arm Council has taught me. It's taught me the value of discussion and debate. It's important because it makes for better, more thoughtful, more meaningful decisions. It taught me the importance of listening, not just positioning, because if we go into debates thinking that we know everything, we're only robbing ourselves, our community, and each other of a better way forward. It taught me humility. Local government is an amazingly complex system because it has enormous impact on our daily lives. Salmon Arm has an annual budget of just over $40 million. $7 million of that our city has to collect on behalf of other levels of government. That's a big responsibility. As a community, we share almost $250 million in assets and infrastructure. We have over 100 employees, we serve 8,500 households, and we have 20,000 residents. Every single day, the city serves these people. I also learned that being on council is a job that I love. And I'll admit it, I'm a nerd. I love charts, I love graphs, I love spreadsheets, I love reports, I love strategies, I love planning. My dad was a planner. I was high school president. I'm a meeting junkie, and it might not make me fun at parties, but it makes me a pretty good city councilor. I'm curious, I'm invested, I'm determined to make good, informed, and helpful decisions every single day. And probably the most important lesson I've learned is that nothing, and I mean nothing, that is important is easy or is done alone.
Thank you. We now have Christine Wickner.
Testing. White, my name is Christine Wickner. I want to start by acknowledging that we're on the stolen lands of the Secwepemc people, and that truth is something that I don't take lightly in any political activity I'm a part of. I look forward to answering questions about policy tonight. I have a decade of experience in both electoral and movement politics. Combined with education and policy design from the Harvard Kennedy School, I feel this is one of my strengths. I won't claim to have all the answers, though, nor is that a reasonable expectation of any of us in this age of information. I'm going to talk about the principles of effective policy development rather than specifics, in an effort to move away from promissory and performative politics, which I believe erodes trust between citizens and politicians. Governing is so much more than policy design. There are steps that cannot be skipped on the road to legislation. Steps like facilitating democracy, communicating effectively, and educating. We've seen in the pandemic how rushing through these steps, even if necessary by context, can be dangerous to the cohesion and safety of our society. Moving forward, we must take responsibility for that and commit to making our systems safer and more accessible for those that feel shut out of decision making. I respect and believe everyone on the stage is well-intentioned, but I see two views on government that are competing on the stage and in our society. One is that the government is all bad, corrupt, and tyrannical. And another is that everything's good and working well and nothing to see here. Both of these are problematic to me because one will breed instability and the other will breed complacency. My children's future can't afford any of those right now. We need to avoid extremes rooted in emotion and privilege and focus on evidence-based decision-making in order to address the intersecting crisis facing our community and beyond. I consider myself and others on the stage to be that reasonable option. I know that the system is not perfect and can identify the imperfections while also appreciating the good. A couple of years ago, I watched a house across the street from me be torn down in 4 days. They methodically worked to preserve the best parts of it that were still functioning while disposing of what had become unusable and irrelevant. They used a variety of tools to ensure it didn't collapse into a pile of rubble. This is the example we need. With the right tools, a plan, and hard work, anything is possible. We don't have to buy the lie that change is slow, messy, and complicated. We just need the right team in place. I'm asking you to listen tonight for the people that acknowledge that there's a lot of work to be done and demonstrate an understanding of the tools available to us to get it done. And watch in the coming days for people that work hard to earn your vote. I want to be at the table with those people working hard long after October 15th to engage citizens, make good land use decisions, and ensure our community prospers together. Cooks Jam for engaging tonight, and I'm really fun at parties too.
Tim Lavery, candidate for re-election to council, will not be attending this evening due to health matter. He will be issuing a press release on this and he will follow up with answers to the questions on his social media forum. So it is now time for our question and answer period. Each candidate will be provided 1 minute to answer the question given. We will officially be keeping track of time and will indicate time remaining by raising a yellow card at the 30-second mark and a red card at the 50-second mark, and we'll cut you off at the 1 minute mark. We ask that all candidates assist us by being respectful of their time allotments. The questions this evening were submitted by the community members via email to the Chamber Administration. We received over 60 questions, and a special thank you to all of those that took the time to respond. From these questions, we condensed them into key categories and revised them into our final form for tonight's event. Due to the overwhelming submissions and array of topics, and in the interest of allowing each candidate enough time to respond to the questions, we have elected to ask a total of 15 questions. Each question will be answered by 2 candidates, and each candidate will answer a total of 3 questions. The question order has been randomly drawn in advance of tonight's forum. To ensure transparency and equity, the names will be drawn tonight by myself before each question. I will ask the question to the 2 candidates, and then we will move on to the next question and the remaining candidates until such time as we complete all of the questions and answer portion of the program. Equally essential, we recognize the importance of hearing all candidates' responses to the questions. So tomorrow, the Chamber will distribute a full list of the questions asked this evening to all of the candidates, providing them with the opportunity to respond individually through the media sources. So we will draw the first 2 candidates to answer the first question out of my lovely popcorn bag. So the first to answer is Deb Hockadal and David Gonella. So the first question this evening is, what is your opinion about the management of the COVID-19 pandemic in BC and in this community?
Okay, can you hear me? really terrible. It was managed very terribly. Within 1 month, we were very aware that it was, people could die, but it was much like a flu. People die all the time with the flu, and we don't hear those numbers. It was within 1 month that was known. They had a cruise ship that was a perfect petri dish. They found out how it would work out, and we destroyed lives for 2.5 years.
David?
I believe in science-based responses to the pandemic. I believe the province made decisions that were definitely harder and knew that politically it was going to be very unpopular. I think in the future, we're going to have to find a way of approaching future pandemics in a process that's not as detrimental to all levels of society. But looking back, I think it's easy, as I'm sitting here as an armchair quarterback, to say that those decisions could have been better. Yeah, I think they could have been. But we went through it to save lives. We did it to save people. And I can't really see how in the future that would be different, as long as it's science-based.
Thank you for your responses. So the next question will be answered by Kevin Flynn and Christine Wickner. What do you intend on doing to resolve the issue of the tents that are being erected throughout the school district property? And we will start with Kevin.
Hello? Okay. The homelessness issue is significant in Salmon Arm. Not as significant as it is in other communities. The city of Salmon Arm has been discouraging tents, camping. It's not allowed on our parklands, on our lands, but we do not control the school district property. Clearly, we are all concerned about the tents, about the homeless. We have added 500 plus homes to our community. We've added 130 subsidized and fully supported homes, 40 of them no cost to the homeless. I think we've done what we can, and we are working with other levels of government to improve the situation.
Thank you. Christine?
It's difficult when I'm not at the table to know what's been discussed between the multiple levels. Obviously, BC Housing has a huge role to play in this, and they need to step up. But I also hear from my colleagues on the provincial level that sometimes cities don't step up in terms of providing what they need. Like, for example, land, if they wanted to put temporary housing up that would be at least contained in a safe spot where police and emergency services could be know where they are and help with harm reduction and poverty outreach. It's shocking to me that the federal government has not declared a state of emergency when it comes to the poison drug supply and hasn't provided military enforcement. We're fighting resource wars abroad, but we're not fighting our emergencies here at home, which is problematic.
Thank you for your responses. The next question will be answered by Brian Fletcher and Robert Johnson. There are other communities on the island that are entering into a collaboration of city, private, and BC Housing that are contributing to a project to build small homes for the vulnerable population. Are you aware of this project, and are you willing to explore this more for our community? And we will start with Brian.
I am not aware of the project, but I think with the homeless population, mental health, substance abuse are always two key factors that is prevalent in those populations. Another one is having the ability, if the homeless population is willing to seek help, that there are resources available to them quickly. How exactly that would work, I'm not sure. I've never dealt with the homeless issue in any sort of capacity, so I think I would rely on frontline workers, such as like RCMP, social workers, people working at the lighthouse, and also the homeless population themselves, and see what they would see as the most valuable for them.
Thank you. Robert Johnson.
So yeah, I'm not aware of that project either, and I'm by no means any type of expert on homelessness, and I'm also a libertarian, and I don't believe in the government solving any problems ever, but but obviously, I mean, nobody wants to see anybody on the street or anybody addicted or anybody having mental health issues. So, you know, it's interesting. I have no idea whether the demographics of homelessness have changed in the last 2.5 years with all of these people losing their livelihoods and our social fabric being torn apart. But either way, yeah, I'm totally, you know, until we can transition and raise the consciousness of humanity to a better solution, I'm definitely all about the local and provincial governments working together to provide housing for people that don't otherwise have access.
Thank you very much. The next question will be Louise Wallace Richmond and Daniel Barty. This past year, we saw an increase of 4% in property taxes to pay for increased policing costs. Jurisdictions such as Nelson have a city police force. Do you agree that Salmon Arms should consider a city police force and phase out the RCMP? And we will start with Louise.
Thank you. There is a massive shortage of labor in all policing forces. We have a detachment of 19 that we work hard to keep. Now is not the time, I'm afraid, to decide to abandon that and start something brand new. The RCMP is part of a national network. They share intelligence, they share training, they share resources. I don't understand this push towards independent policing. We are only a city of 20,000, and that 4% increase was as a result of negotiations that were done at the federal level, and we pay 90% of the bill whether we like it or not. And that's the way I'm afraid it is for now.
Thank you. And Daniel.
RCMP is Royal Canadian Mounted Police, right? And I don't agree with any increasing the property taxes because that's push the family even deeper on their pocket. By statistic, over 65% of all Canadians live from paycheck to paycheck. A lot of people has 3-5 credit cards, which one they basically pay off the credit. So I am not for increasing in taxes. We should do the big audit for the city financing. If we need, maybe we should increase the bylaw services. But the most important to me, bring for the population responsibility, because freedom goes shoulder to shoulder with responsibility. Get educated kids, people to be responsible for neighborhood and never touch the private pockets. That's the easy way to do it, because everything is done by hardworking people, right?
Thank you very much. The next question goes to Sylvia Lindgren and Debbie Cannon. Have you read through the official community plan?
Am I up first?
Yes, sorry, Sylvia first.
Okay. So yes, of course, we all read through the official community plan. I'm not sure what the question is actually getting at here. The official community plan is developed over a period of time with staff, senior staff, and council working collaboratively together, sometimes with a consultant and sometimes on our own. And it is the plan that guides our development, everything that we do. And so yes, of course we have.
And Debbie.
Thank you. Yes, I have read through the community plan. It is due to be relooked at, and it is a living document. That's how it was always described when we did our last review on it. It kind of outlines the city, the different areas, and the zoning, and that's what the official community plan is all about. And the last time we did the review, the community was very involved with it. There was roundtable discussions when we put it together with consultants, and it is due for a review and a new OCP to look at it.
Thank you very much. So I've placed the names back into the bucket, and we will start on our next round of questions. So we'll start with Louise Wallace-Richmond and Daniel Barty. Climate change has altered the way municipalities view severe weather, with infrastructure, property, and lives being at much greater risk. Communities across Canada now experience 1 in 1,000 year extreme weather events more commonly, resulting in huge losses. If elected, what actions will you take to address climate change and make your community more resilient to climate change? And we will start with Louise.
Thank you. We have to stop talking about the risk of climate change. It's not a risk anymore. It's a reality. All of us need to reduce our GHG emissions. At the city level, that means measuring every single department every single year to reduce the GHG emissions. It's a provincial program used to be called CARIB. And as a result of that work and those measurements and that data, the city is granted provincial funding, and all of those dollars go back into climate initiatives. We need to focus less on the cost of doing things and more on the cost of not getting it done. Just ask our friends in Abbotsford, Merritt, and Princeton.
And Daniel?
I believe climate change is a natural process of this planet. What is the impact of the humans? We don't know exactly. It's still very questionable. What I believe, we have to protect our environmental for all spectrum, but with common sense, because we can see the governments worldwide spend billions of dollars for solar panels, for the another sources of electricity. But when you see in California, there are thousands of acres of solar panels, which one they cannot reuse, and they're just wasting. We don't know what is the impact using the electric batteries, and et cetera, et cetera. We have to protect our environmental, but still keep common sense. For me, the very important about climate is the pollution caused by people and also using of natural resources. That is the two biggest concern about the climate.
Thank you. The next question will be answered by Christine Wickner and Debbie Cannon. Food availability was severely affected during extreme weather events that tore apart highways and drowned lower mainland farmland and farm animals. How would you work to enhance food security in this region? And we'll start with Christine.
Yes, food security is huge. I recently became a parent at Hillcrest Elementary, and we have not stopped talking amongst ourselves in the breakfast program about how the need is higher and funding is shorter. There's great agencies in the area, Food Action Society, that's doing great work. I think we could do more. There's a lot of people sitting on ALR land that aren't using it, and I think we could I don't know the word for it, but get people that want to farm on that land that isn't being used. And that would be one way to make sure that we're growing food locally, helping people out that want to use their knowledge about farming. There's a lot of people new to Canada that have that type of skill set, and partnering those folks with people not using their land would be a great way to do that.
Thank you. Debbie Cannon.
Thank you. A great question. I think that something that was evident when we had the flooding and the highways were shut down is that there was a lot of things that we couldn't get in and we obviously couldn't get out. And one that I think about is our dairy farms. So many of the dairy farms in our area and within the city limits of Salmon dairy farms that operate were dumping gallons and thousands of gallons of milk. And that just seems criminal when you went to the grocery stores and there was no milk. So I think we need to look at the future to possibly process stuff like milk and dairy products within the interior. Seems ridiculous. We ship it to Vancouver and then we bring it back in a carton.
Thank you very much. So the next question will be answered by Sylvia Lindgren and Deb Hockadal. A member of the public approaches you with a valid concern. What steps would you take to address this concern? And Sylvia.
So somebody once told me when I sat down with them that you need to have a pencil and a piece of paper in front of you when you sit down to listen to their concerns. And so that's where I'd start. I would go for coffee probably with that person. We'd have a conversation, and then I would take that concern back to often the mayor and the CAO of the city to have a discussion about where the city is on that now. What have we done up to this point? What can we do? Do we have plans to address that in the future? Once I've gathered the information that I can, I would report back to the person that I've done some research and that these are the answers that I found, and ask them if there was more that they would like me to do. Yeah, so hopefully there are steps that are being taken by the city already, and I can report back to them on that.
Thank you. And Deb?
Sorry. Hello. I guess that is how to answer a question. Like, take it, show a lot of interest in the person because you do care about their situation, and see what you can do about it, for sure. Get back to them. I don't know how to answer it differently.
Thank you very much. The next question will be answered by Robert Johnson and David Gonella. CSRD is responsible for administrating the emergency program, but the city, through its 2 sitting members on the CSRD board, can give input to the administration of emergency programs on behalf of the city. Do you see a role that businesses should play in preventing emergencies and in helping when disaster occurs? And we'll start with Robert.
I guess it depends on the disaster and the type of business. Like, I don't know, because obviously, again, my bent is always to have businesses and the private sector solving problems and dealing with situations. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, again, depends on what are we talking about, a flood, a fire, a pandemic. Yeah, I think, collaboration between the public and private sector should always be promoted whenever it's possible.
Thank you. And David.
Absolutely, the city should be involved. The CSRD is the point on all preparedness for emergencies. The city has an active part in this to make sure their planning is correct, and it actually takes into account what resources we have available. At those moments, we need all hands on deck. No one's an individual in a moment of emergency. We all have to come together as a community and make sure that we can stay safe together no matter what we're facing. And yeah, that's all I have to say on it.
Thank you very much. And the next question will be answered by Brian Fletcher and Kevin Flynn. Okanagan Avenue and 20th Street Northeast is a ticking time bomb and is very dangerous crossing at peak hours and school hours. How would you address this? And we'll start with Brian.
Well, I mean, if we can agree that it's a ticking time bomb, we're sitting here with incumbent councillors, and it's been sitting that way for years. I live just up the street from 20th on 23rd. There's a new subdivision, a new crosswalk. It hasn't been changed. People come flying up Okanagan at 100 kilometers an hour. I see it there. There's speed bumps at the bottom of Okanagan. Like, they can be put up Okanagan. You can put a roundabout. You could put a traffic light there. There should be something done, definitely on Okanagan. And to see it sitting there for years and having this question come up, I guess shows a few things.
And Kevin.
Thank you, and I am not a traffic engineer. I am not a traffic specialist. I do drive that street every day, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times, and that intersection is a difficult one, no question. The fact is, it can't have a roundabout due to topography and lack of land. That has been looked at by the city. 4-way stop, I'm not sure that's the solution. It's pretty hard to stop coming down 20th. The reality is we have significant topography issues, and we have some areas that have significant traffic, and we have a problem with people speeding. We've asked for more enforcement. We've looked at a traffic circle. I think there are solutions. They are being looked at, and that is just one of our difficult intersections that we are looking at long-term solutions.
Thank you very much. So the names have been put back into the bag, and we will draw for the next question. So it'll be Louise Wallace Richmond and Brian Fletcher. Some months ago, there were a number of demonstrators that regularly set up their demonstration in Blackburn Park. Community residents who tried to enjoy the park felt intimidated by these demonstrators and made complaints to City Hall. There is a bylaw to deal with this type of infraction, but there was nothing done to resolve this issue. What is your position on keeping our parks and community areas free of these types of demonstrations? And we'll start with Louise.
We have to remember that a public park is sacred space, and it's for the public. Any sort of gathering that is private, commercial, or political, it's customary to rent a hall or do it in private property. Our parks were built by all of us. They were supported by all our nonprofit groups. It is customary to ask for a permit. Permits were not asked for. I mean, how much of your time and money do you want to spend sending out bylaw officers on the weekend to deal with people who don't even have the decency to ask for permission? I know what I want to spend on that.
Thank you. Brian Fletcher.
Like, this is Canada. We have freedom. We're supposed to have freedom of assembly, freedom of religious expression, freedom of political expression. We're asking to go get a permit to go to a park publicly. Like, what's the threshold of it being a private gathering where you don't need a permit and you need to go get a permit? Like, what a bunch of bureaucracy thrown in the face of freedoms that we're supposed to have as Canadians.
Thank you. Next, we will have Christine Wickner and Kevin Flynn. With the Ross Street underpass opening next year, what is your vision for the downtown core and for the waterfront side in regards to attracting small businesses, attracting local and out-of-town customers, and ensuring that traffic flow and parking are not prohibitive factors to shopping downtown? And we'll start with Christine.
So I'm going to say something controversial. I don't like the idea of the Ross Street parkade that's being planned. I think it's going to be ugly, and I think it's going to cause congestion instead of solving it. What I would prefer is that we have commuter hubs on the edge of cities. One at Walmart, Uptown, Rec Center would be a great place. These are hubs that we could then shuttle people, and it would have to be consistent, regular shuttling downtown, so that people are walking downtown, they're going out for lunch, they're not worrying about their meter running out, whether it's an appointment or going to the post office, because people have to do those things. My husband's a civil engineer, so when you elect me, you elect him, and parking fees are not meant to cover costs, they're meant to deter people from parking downtown. And the parkade is antithetical to that.
Thank you. And Kevin?
I am the current city rep on downtown Salmon Arm. We work together with downtown Salmon Arm, the Downtown Parking Commission, to look at both parking solutions, traffic flow, and all of those things. I think the underpass will improve traffic flow, will improve pedestrian flow, and the community is also working on an active transportation plan to encourage non-vehicular traffic. So we are trying to improve all accesses to our downtown. Again, topography, we live on a hill, a big hill, so biking isn't as easy going home as it is coming down for many. But we have community groups that are working on it. We have staff that are working on it. And honestly, I think the underpass will improve both traffic flow, pedestrian flow, and access to our downtown.
Thank you. The next question will be answered by David Gonella and Robert Johnson. A lack of available housing is an important issue for Salmon Arm, including low-cost housing. How would you address this issue? And we'll begin with David.
Locally, this problem is going to be very difficult to solve up front because we need the province to support initiatives with resources. To solve some of the low-cost housing issues is opening up more of the single homes, allowing more suites to be rented out, allow properties, as now they are actually in the houses, adding cottages or secondary houses on the properties themselves, opening up land use or zoning to allow for smaller dwellings to be occupied, looking at other options out there that we're not normally looking at, possibly year-round campsites where people can, inside the municipal area, to offer more opportunities for people to live in the city.
Thank you. And Robert.
I have no idea. Because I don't understand the problem. Like is it a bureaucracy? Like why, what are the factors that drive the cost of housing, right? Again, I've heard people talk about it like a zoning issue. You can zone for, like he was saying, allowing for multi-unit, multi-family housing and stuff, and suites and, tiny homes. I heard someone talking about, setting some land aside to just build a tiny home village, which might be a solution. So yeah, again, I don't know. How the hell am I supposed to answer that?
Thank you. The next question will be answered by Deb Hockadal and Daniel Barty. What have you done in the past to contribute to the community, and what do you plan on doing to continue to contribute to the community? And we'll start with Deb.
Well, it's on. Okay. I've done a lot of volunteering. I love helping in gardens and farms. I've worked in hospices. Love organizing gatherings. I don't know, I just love everything about community. So that's about all.
Thank you. And Daniel?
I'm in Salmon since 2017, so not a long time here. But since I started working on the tree service company, I really take care about real environmental problems, and I love the trees. And also, that will be my really passion to work on the parks department to bring more healthy trees in this community, because I see city doesn't really care about trees in this town. Another thing is I am volunteer for the shoe swap trails, which I help clean the trails, and also I support these trails with funding. I'm just, like I said, only 5 years here, but I'm ready to help community. I'm helping with the shopping locally, helping the farmers, and helping every neighborhood when I always drive to dump, clean everything, and save the time.
Thank you very much. And the final question will be asked to Sylvia Lindgren and Debbie Cannon. Devastating forest fires are a known threat to the city of Salmon. What would you do to help protect our city from the threat of forest fires? And we'll start with Sylvia.
Where's Tim Lavery when we need him? So, fire smart. That's a catchphrase that's been used in the city ever since I got elected. We saw forest fires destroy the city of Lytton, or the village of Lytton, and skip through Logan Lake with very little damage. And the difference there was fire smarting the community. We've been working on fire smarting here for several years now. That means thinning the forest in places where it interacts with housing and neighborhoods. So we got some very negative feedback from people who are concerned about the fire smarting that happened in Little Mountain Park. And it took some education and some working through the issues for people to understand that this is how we are going to protect homes, because when the fire comes through, it doesn't burn as well or as high or as hot when it's in these areas that have been fire smarted. So we'll continue to do that.
Thank you. And Debbie.
Thank you. Obviously, all the things that Sylvia has said, our council is working closely actually with Tim Laverly and our fire chief on fire smarting. And recently at our SILGA convention in town, we actually saw the presentation on how the fire smarting saved Logan Lake from a lot of damage. So that was an interesting presentation to look at, and fire smarting does save communities.
Thank you very much. So thank you everyone for your responses. A reminder that all candidates will receive a copy of all the questions asked this evening, and we do encourage you to post them on your websites or your social media. Now we are going to give the opportunity for candidates to give 1 minute of their closing comments. And again, you will receive a yellow card at the 30-second timing and a red card at the 50-second mark, and we'll cut you off at the 1 minute mark. And so we're going to start with the same order that we started for the opening remarks. So we're going to start with Daniel Barty.
So for last decades, so many people moved to Canada because of wealth of this country. But that wealth of the country is for natural resources and for hardworking people. And every country is built by a strong community, and a strong community is built by strong families. So let's focus on the strong families, healthy communities. Let's focus what is important for all people without any division of skin color, religions, pandemic issue, whatever. Let's focus on fresh air, good water, good affordable food, and housing and shelters. That is the most important thing we have to focus. Forget about all those rainbows, crosswalk, everything what divide us. Let's spend the money what is common, because we are living on hard time, and hard time maybe will be even worse. If you want to change, give me the chance. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie Cannon.
Thank you. I really feel very invested in our community. I've been here a lot of years, and what I think I love most about our community is our diversity. And I love that we have things like a very active art gallery. We have the Rainbow Walk, and I love that. And I love the upcoming Pride Fest that we're going to have in our community. I think that all of these things make our community so unique. I mean, we've hosted different huge events in our community. We always have the volunteer base that comes out. We have a great community. and people love Salmon Arm. So I want to get back in as a city councillor so I can continue the great work that I think we do.
Thank you. Brian Fletcher.
I agree. I think Salmon Arm is a great city. We've got a lot of things going for us, and as much at times that I may disagree with what the current local government has done, they have done a lot of things correctly to position Salmon Arm where it is right now. We all love this city, and we'd have to build on that. Historically, this area, like Salmon Arm, has voted conservatively in the federal and provincial elections. Locally, I think it's a voice that's lacking, and I would provide that locally. My main objective, especially given the inflation right now, would be to keep the cost of living low for everyone here. And Fletcher for council.
Thank you. Kevin Flynn.
I guess he didn't want me to speak. I will repeat, my overarching goal as an elected official is to work positively, collaboratively, professionally, with honesty, respect, and integrity to improve this community that we love. I have had the pleasure of you supporting me for 5 terms. I started as one of the youngest. I am now officially, I believe, the oldest. But let's just look at me as the wily veteran with gray hair who wants to come back and do this one more time. We live in an amazing community, and I want to lead improvement for all our residents, including my children and especially my grandchildren. I ask for your support, and a vote for Kevin Flynn is a vote for positive experience. Thank you.
Thank you. David Ganella.
I'm David Ganella, and what I will bring to this city is finding a unifying voice to work with all levels of government with a track record of getting goals met, projects completed, and doing everything I can to keep the costs down for all of us, and being there as someone who will listen to you one-on-one and take your points of view seriously. This is David Ganella, hopefully your next council person on in Salmon Arm.
Thank you. Deb Hockadal.
I think Salmon Arm is the most beautiful place, and it has a great community, and I just wanted to make a better community, and I feel like the government has made me feel as a person that I wasn't a priority. And I want to drive change to ensure that all our voices are heard and everyone feels valued.
Thank you. Robert Johnson.
When does this minute start? I don't know.
Now.
So I guess the thing for me is I think kind of our goal, there's kind of a group of us that have been trying to create this grassroots movement here. And I would say the goal is, well, I've been saying this, I don't know if anyone else agrees, to make Salmon Arm an example and a model of what is possible when a group of people with common sense and integrity just take a stand and draw a line in the sand and say, we're not going to play this game anymore. Because again, I sort of feel like my goal here is to kind of wake people up, I guess. Like if you don't know about mass formation and pluralistic ignorance and the totalitarian tiptoe, then I don't think you know what's really going on here. So that's all. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Sylvia Lindgren.
I'm going to take this opportunity to finish my Shane Koizan story. You didn't get to hear it. So he presented a piece called Tomorrow, and it was about getting back to things like hugging and concerts and dancing. And listening to this piece, I realized that we've all been through the most traumatic global event since World War II. It's been tough. But I want to assure you that tomorrow has come. We're through the other side, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to put this behind us and start looking at each other with compassion and respect again. I'm ready to get back to work. There's still lots to do, I hope you'll vote for me on October 15th and give me an opportunity to continue this good work.
Thank you. Louise Wallace Richmond.
I love Salmon Arm, as many of you might have seen from the red heart on my signs. I know you do too, or you wouldn't be here. When I started this, my kids were teenagers. They didn't care much about where I was on Mondays, and they loved it when we went away for provincial meetings because Grandma got to stay over and spoil them. So thank you, Grandma. But they're voters now, and they have questions and comments and concerns and really good ideas. And it won't be long before they lead us as a community. I knew I had to do more so that the city is ready for their needs, their expectation, their potential, and their promise. And if you want to get your kids to vote, put your name on the ballot. Now, whether or not they vote for me is up to them. That's how democracy works. But I raised some voters, and I'm very proud of that. My name is Louise Wallace Richmond. I'm the longest name on the ballot. We have some challenges, but we have great things to look forward to.
Thank you. And Christine Wickner.
Thank you to the Chamber for putting this on. For a lot of voters, this marks the beginning of the campaign as you get to know us, but for me, it's the final stretch. I declared my intentions to run over a year ago and have been working hard to earn a seat since. I've met with current, hopeful, past candidates, diehard council meeting attendees, hello Wayne, the heads of our emergency services, nonprofits. I've done school presentations, and I've met people where they're at community events. I often frequent small businesses in town, and you can find updates on my Facebook page about what I'm hearing from our community. I'm also intending to put all 15 answers to all 15 questions on my website because I think they all deserve thoughtful answers, and 1 minute wasn't enough for the ones I could. If I have earned your vote, please consider identifying that on my website and maybe helping support me. It's not easy being a young woman in politics, and any help you can give will not be taken for granted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now pause for a 10-minute break and ask the mayoral candidates to come up to the stage for the second half of the evening. Thank you.
That is one of the things that they say is really lacking. So as your mayor, those are the things, some of the things that I will work on, but also I will listen. I have talked with many of you over the years many times, and I do listen, and I will bring your concerns to council. So on October 15th, please think about me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now have Alan Harrison.
Good evening, Madam Chair, fellow candidates, and residents of Salmon Arm. It has been an honor to be your mayor for the past 4 years, and this council has accomplished a lot during challenging times. 4 years ago, not a stone had been turned on the Trans-Canada Highway West project. The project was stalled. We went to work. We met with Minister Trevina. We met with Modi's staff. We worked with our MLA. We were relentless. We knew we had the community's backing. The old Salmon River Bridge was scary to drive across, and the need to upgrade to 4 lanes was becoming a must due to increased volumes. Now, this $180 million project, the biggest project ever in the city of Salmon Arm, is nearing completion. Come spring, you will glide across a wide 4-lane highway and safely pass over the Salmon River on a straight, 4-lane, smoothly paved bridge. 4 years ago, on this stage, I spoke to you about Rapattack. We were concerned that the province was threatening to move our base. When elected as mayor, this file was in the center of my desk. With council support, Councillor Eliason and I took it on. We met with the provincial ministry and with BC Wildfire. We rationalized the importance of a first attack base in the Shuswap. We stressed we're surrounded by heavily forest-crowned land and are in a highly volatile lightning zone. Now, Rapattack is solidly in place at our airport. It is used more than ever as both a training base and a first-time attack base. The best thing is, we are safer. Over the past 3 years, Rapitak crews have extinguished numerous fires in our region, one right on the side of Mount Ida. And a bonus, in the last year, our airport reported over $500,000 in fuel sales, much of which was from Rapitak operations. 4 years ago, we asked you to borrow funds to help build the Ross Street underpass. When we went to tender, costs and labor had increased. The estimated costs had risen $3 million. Council had two options. One, abandon the project. However, we knew if we quit, costs would only go up and it would likely never be built. The second choice was go looking for other sources. We had 60 days. We engaged our MLA, Greg Kylo. He was a huge help. We contacted Minister Fleming twice. The province agreed to put in $1 million. With help from our CP contact, we went up the ladder to CP head office in Calgary. We knew this project was important to CP. They came through with $2 million additional dollars. Then we went back to our own reserve budgets and pulled together the rest. And now, come April, you will walk, cycle, and drive underneath the tracks. No more waiting for trains. No more delay for emergency vehicles. This project will change our downtown. It's going to add a whole new vibrancy to downtown Salmon Arm. 4 years ago, I promised to ban the use of single-use plastic shopping bags. It seems like a small thing. With the support of council and the cooperation of retailers in the community, we did it. One of the first municipalities in the province to do so. 2 million less bags in the dump. Over the past 4 years, this council has been diligently working on housing. In partnership with BC Housing, CMHA, and private contractors, over 100 subsidized and supported housing units have been built. And in addition, the city received well over 100 zoning requests for legalized secondary suites. This council passed every single one. It will be no surprise to residents, building statistics in our city are at a record pace, well over $50 million in value each of the last 4 years. Leadership is about bringing people together. It's about working with people who have differing ideas and a variety of expertise and having them pull the same way. With a strong council team and a talented city staff, we have done just that. For strong leadership, continuing to move Salmon Arm forward, I ask for your support on October 15th.
Thank you very much. And we have Luke Norrie.
Toot toot. Start that timer. Hi everybody, my name is Luke Norrie. I am the newcomer. I'm sharing the stage with these two wonderful people who have already been in the middle of the city administration and spoken for you and worked for you. And there is a lot of stuff that has happened in the city, and a lot of things that I think that the council and the mayors have done over the past years. I'm a father. I have 3 kids. I have a wonderful wife who is a teacher here in Salmon Arm. I was born in Summerland. I lived in Ashcroft. We moved to Alberta with the family. And when we got married, we had visited here so many years in a row that we decided to finally move here. And we've been here for 2.5 years. So I am absolutely a newcomer. The place that we call home now is somewhere where I don't think we're ever going to leave. The community, the feeling, the vibrancy, the energy in this community, the water that we share, the mountains, the hills, the free entertainment that we have in front of us is something that I think I'm going to cherish forever. I am very engaged with the community right now. And what I have, even just sitting on the front here, what I noticed was a sharp division between people. And it goes far beyond just the people that were on stage. And there is that division that is kind of everywhere. It permeates in the feelings that we have in the grocery stores, in our neighbors, in our workplaces. We all feel it. And we need to find someone who's going to really work day in and day out to sort of bridge the gap, be the mediator between the two sides, because if you think about it, there's 90% of us that are really have the humility and the ability to move past what has happened in the last 2 years. I don't want to spend a lot of time on COVID because I look at it as a blessing in disguise. Things happened. It has caused us to have conversations we never thought we would. So that in a sense, there were certain things that every government did. There are certain things that every representative did that we might not agree with, that some people say, yes, they did a good job, and other people say you did a terrible job. You're never going to please anyone. The one thing that sticks out to me, and this is very important, is the public engagement with huge decisions that are made. I heard a story about when the Walmart was going in, and the mayor at that time, I believe, it took 4 days through public hearings to decide how the Walmart was going to be built. That's just hearsay. This is what I heard. And I think when it came to certain COVID measures, I really believe that the fact that council doors were closed and there was no public debate on that was just a miscarriage. And I think that's something we should really look back on and not let that happen again, because when the public decides, that's more important than letting a few people decide for us. So there's two sides to this debate. I'm not going to say which is right and which is wrong. What I think is ultimately is the role of government is to allow the people to have a voice and to be heard. So that is something that I think is very important to me. A couple things on my platform include the idea of civic duty and community engagement. So I'm going to be honest with you. I was one of those guys at Blackburn Park. I've spoken to people. I've been a firsthand witness to the generosity of a lot of people that came out there. We had hosted barbecues. We fed whoever wanted to for free. There's a couple homeless ladies that helped us bring our barbecues, bring our food. It was a sense of trying to get back to this feeling of community after 2 years of being sort of hidden away and forced into this area where we couldn't see each other. And my firsthand account was that there was nothing bad about this except for the fact that for sure, permission wasn't asked, because the assumption was that permission was not going to be given. That we were going to ask council and be denied because of the views, but the views were just simply, let's feed each other, let's have an open discussion, let's talk about things that need to be discussed. And that's one important thing that I think needs to happen going forward. So that civic duty, that community engagement, getting people involved, having a town hall on already? Having town halls once a month. City council and the council chambers are very important to sign the documents, to make those things happen. But what we need to do is have engagement with the public, with the citizens of this town, and let them throw eggs at whoever is up here or cheer, you're doing a good job. We need town halls to come back, and I'll get into the rest of my thing in the last 5 minutes. I'll stop there. So if you have a chance, vote for Luke Norrie.
Thank you very much. It is now time for the question and answer period. Each candidate will be provided 2 minutes to answer the questions given. We will officially be keeping track of time and will indicate time remaining by raising a yellow card at the 1 minute mark and a red card at the 1 minute 50-second mark. I will cut you off at the 2 minute mark. Again, we ask that all candidates assist us by being respectful of their time allotments. Mayoral candidates will be asked a total of 3 questions each for a total of 9 questions. The question order has been randomly drawn in advance of tonight's forum. There will be 1 question that will be asked specifically of that candidate. The other 2 questions will have their names drawn tonight by myself. So, Nancy Cooper, what specifically prompted you to run for mayor against the incumbent? What would you improve upon?
Thank you for the question, and thank you all for that. I decided to run because I was seeing that there was some lack. People were saying, we don't know what's going on. We don't hear from the mayor. We don't hear what projects are happening. And that is something I was actually very good at as mayor. I was on the radio, I wrote articles, I met with people, and so I worked really hard on that part of it. And also, letting them know when things were going to happen too. When we opened the Trans-Canada Highway, when all of the people were here to open that, I was out there with them. I was the mayor at that time, and we all opened it together. All that started, the Trans-Canada Highway, the new bridge and everything, we worked really, really hard on it. And we did it together. And everybody knew what was going on. And so I've tried to be very good at communicating and very good at letting people know what's going on. And so that was what prompted me. So what I would improve on is communication. Any way that I can, whether it's social media, whether it's radio, if Patrick would let me, or the paper, or writing articles, whatever it is, that's what I do. I do good communication well, and as well as getting projects started, like the Trans-Canada Highway project, like the underpass project. But we did that by working together, and I have to thank city staff too, because they worked extremely hard. And I think about Carl Bannister, the amount of time that he actually put in. So I really appreciate the city staff, but my good thing is that I can communicate with people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alan Harrison, what are you most proud of in your term as mayor, and what is one thing you would have done differently?
Thank you. I think the thing that I'm most proud of is we have developed a culture of shared leadership. The mayor is one person. Councillors are incredibly capable. They each have their areas of expertise, and they've stepped up. For instance, we just came back from the Union of BC Municipalities annual general meeting. Each councillor that went there led one of those meetings with those ministers. They researched it. They made sure they knew what we were going to say. They brought the team together, because 7 of us is far better than 1. One thing that you would have done differently. It's an interesting question. You know, I'm not sure. I don't know if there's anything that I would have done completely different from what we did. We had to make some very difficult decisions, and we did them nimbly, we did them thoughtfully, we did them carefully and with process. Not everybody agreed with those decisions. They were difficult, but I believe they were the right ones.
Thank you very much. And Luke Norrie, to guide this town, what experience do you have, and what successes do you have leading groups like this?
In my experience, I'm 41 now. I have worked and led many construction teams. My most successful venture was actually a restaurant, 40 plus employees, about $2.5 million in sales annually. Started from scratch with an empty building and basically a vision. And the vision came to fruition. I was able to honestly build the rapport with every employee that I have, and I think they would attest to my character and my determination and my work ethic, which was all hours of the day and night. And I brought that restaurant to be extremely profitable by looking at every single thing in the efficiencies of every little process that we did. So I would bring the same kind of aspect with that to City Hall and to Council. There are a lot of things in this. It's obviously a far larger budget, but taking the exact same approach that I would to the restaurant and to the other restaurants that I've owned, I have online businesses as well, and take the same approach where it's really important to have that fiscal responsibility, but look for the efficiencies, especially in the development process, where everything in our housing, to streamline these things and find those ways to make it easier to get our houses built, the multifamilies in the short term, to basically make it easier for our community to have the houses they need to have. So I would utilize the experience that I have and leading groups of people, leading anywhere from construction to the restaurants to the Chamber of Commerce. I was also a member of for several years. So I've also volunteered in numerous different aspects. I was a volunteer at the Olympics in Vancouver actually for 10 days, where I became one of the leaders because the leaders that were paid sort of disappeared, and that was one of my big things that led me to this, and here we are. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So now I will draw names for the orders that we will go in. So the first question we will ask to Luke Norrie. The Shuswap is more and more frequently in a state of drought. What will you do as mayor to ensure that there is enough water to support the growth in population in the city of Salmon Arm?
That's a huge question to ask. I'm going to direct right to one of the council meetings, I think it was in August, where we started talking about the water scarcity problem and what we're going to do with mitigating that. And one of the solutions, I think the only solution addressed was brought to council, and it was, do we do 2 days of watering or 3 days? So the idea that is kind of the only solution that was really given was to bring back our water usage on our lawns, to me was this idea that if there were other voices and other ideas, I think we'd find some other solution. My belief in this might be far-fetched, but we got to look at what we're using our water for. And I think we have to realize that if we're using it for grass, which is the most unenvironmentally friendly thing that we have in our yards, we have to start rethinking how we're going to actually landscape what we have. So we're using way, way, way too much water to water our lawns. That ties directly right into the urban farming plan, which should be number one on the long-term outlook. It should be a short-term thing for the city of Salmon Arm. You're going to use a lot less water if you use it properly to water your gardens than you are to water your lawns, and you're going to get food at the same time. So we shouldn't have this single approach of we got to restrict water. We have to start seeing where we're wasting water and how do we actually change our own behavior, as opposed to just saying we're going to cut off the water, we'll only get 2 days, because eventually as the community grows, we're going to see, well, you can only water for 1 day a week or a half a day a week. And at that point, there's no grass left. The sod's going to die. We've got to start planting things that are made to grow here in the minimal amount of water required from, and obviously the rain is less and less. So that's one of the big things I think is important, is think differently and utilize the expertise and the brilliance of the community, because you guys are what's actually going to bring the answers.
Thank you. The second question will be asked to Alan Harrison. What will you do to try and decrease the amount of gases created by city residents traveling within our community as single occupants in their vehicles?
Great, thank you. When it comes to GHG emissions, there's kind of two things. There's the corporate emissions, which the city really controls, and there's the community emissions, which we set example for and we encourage. I think the best way, we have to make it easier for people to get to where they need to go without going in their car. And the Active Transportation Master Plan, which is coming to council this coming Monday, and we've been working on it. Councillor Lavery and myself chaired that committee, 18 residents, and we had 2 inputs from the public. It's a really solid plan. We have to make it easier for residents. We can't just say, hey, you can't drive in your car on your own. That won't work. We have to supply an alternative. And a great example alternative when we bought street side composting. At first people were like, I don't know about this. Now, is there any house that doesn't put a green bin out? That's what we have to do. We have to make it easier for residents.
Thank you. And the last question will be asked to Nancy Cooper. Currently, there is no secondary exit for canoe residents west and north of 70th Avenue Northeast. What would you propose to ensure access to this area in the event that 70th Avenue is blocked?
I've been out in canoe and I saw that. And I drove around there and I talked to the people there. And they're all really concerned. There is a new road that is going in because of a new development. But we actually have to do more than that. And we have to look for other ways to get out of there. So we got to go out. We got to go out and we have to look at it. We have to look at it all together and we have to talk to the residents, because that is a real danger. If there is a fire and there's only one way in and one way out, it's just not acceptable. Like, what's going to happen? What if they can't get out? So this is a big issue, and we do need to talk about it, and we need to go out there and look at it and engage the residents, because the people that live there, they know best. They know, well, we should go this way or we should go that. We need to talk to them and get their input on this, because it is a very, like I say, it's very dangerous and it's pretty scary. And also, there's lots of places out there in Canoe that don't have proper sidewalks. We got kids walking on the road. So there's a lot of these things that really need to be looked at, and we need to go out and engage the residents out there, ask them what they think, what they want to see, what they feel is best, because that's the best way to do it. We're not going to stand back here and make the decision, oh, we got to go over here, we got to go over there. We got to ask the people. We got to ask the people, and that's what I would be doing. I'd be asking the people. Thank you.
Thank you. So I put the names back in the bag, and for the last round of questions, we will start with Luke Norrie again. What are some changes you would propose for the growing vulnerable community?
That's a great question to ask me. I've taken a very strong opinion, and I want to address this, I think, immediately. So this is something that has to happen if it's not already happening in council. First of all, obviously the Salvation Army, there's no place for them to sleep. It's getting cold at night. So if there's not a plan in place, or the city isn't at least addressing this and working with the agencies to find a temporary solution over this winter until we can address this properly, that needs to happen right away. I'm going to be honest, I picked up a hitchhiker for the first time in 22 years the other night. It was about 2 weeks ago, and she looked like she needed a ride. And I gave her a ride to Vernon, and she was homeless. She was seeing what it was like in Salmon Arm because she was from Kelowna. She had been in Kamloops. And throughout the conversation, one thing she explained to me was the number one thing, and this is where we have to start really, instead of standing up here and assuming that we know what we're going to talk about, we have to go to the horse's mouth and we have to ask these people. She said the number one thing that would make the biggest impact on our lives are showers and laundry. So the ability to clean ourselves, and this came from her, and this is other things that she has talked about. So to clean yourself and to clean your clothes, to have the dignity to get up, to even make the attempt to feel like you're worth something in the day. So this is a number one thing and it has to be a collaboration between the municipalities across the entire interior region and hopefully the rest of BC. If any city comes up with the solution for the homeless population, word is going to get out and everyone's going to go to that city. And that's one of the reasons why I think it's so hard to solve this. So I think there needs to be collaboration amongst every single municipality. And with those numbers, we can address the provincial government and say, we have a solution. We just need your funding and we're going to do it together. So that's one thing I think needs to happen is collaboration.
Thank you. And the next question will be asked to Alan Harrison. If there is another wave of COVID this winter that results in the province bringing back restrictions to stop the spread, will you support the institution of public health guidelines in Salmon Arm?
Yes, I would. I'll just say that we have been under the umbrella of Dr. Bonnie Hendry and the BC Disease Control Branch from the start. We are not the experts. We fell underneath that and we followed the science, and we would do it again if we need to.
Thank you. And the last question of the evening will be asked to Nancy Cooper. Parking in the old downtown core is seriously lacking. Any ideas to create more, or what do you see as a vision for the downtown core?
That's a tough question. I'm certain that the underpass is going to help. There is more parking on the other side, but we really have to look at the parking on this side as well. And maybe we have a walkable downtown, more of a walkable downtown. And maybe we put in, e-bikes and e-scooters. Vernon has done that and it's worked really, really well. But we actually are going to be building a parkade, I understand. And so that is good. It's good to have a parkade. You can park there and then walk. But yes, that's a tough question. The old downtown core is lacking in parking. And I know one of the things I'd actually like to see stay in is that Lakeshore Drive where they've done the angle parking for because they're working on the underpass. You actually park more cars that way. So it's a very interesting situation, but I think we do need a parkade. And we do to also change our ideas about what we need. We can also be using the bus. We can use scooters. We can use, if we have them, we need to institute that part. But for the bus too, I will lead. I will start using the bus every chance I get. And I think we can do things to encourage other people to use the bus so that we stay out of the, driving downtown. So thank you.
Thank you. So I'd like to thank everyone for the responses this evening. A reminder that all council and mayoral candidates will receive a copy of all questions asked this evening, and we encourage you to post your responses on your website and social media. We are now going to give the candidates 5 minutes for their closing statements. Again, the yellow card at 4 minutes and 30, and the red card at 4 minutes and 50 seconds, and we will start with Nancy Cooper.
Thank you. And thank you for all of your questions. All of these were really good questions. You've been presented not just by us, but also by council, a lot of ideas, and hopefully the answers given to you are some of the things that you'll consider when you make your choice on October 15th. Housing affordability, rentability, homelessness have all been featured this evening, all of which are important for the success and long-term vision of Salmon Arm. I shared with you some of the ideas I have for addressing issues. We cannot continue to just talk about them without actually doing something. So as mayor, I'm really ready to work with council to achieve some solutions. Increasing rental inventory will assist young families, seniors, even those who come for employment. We can work with the agencies and the homeless population in ways that will actually help them. We have to engage them, like you were saying. We have to engage. We have to engage the homeless people and see what they want and learn what they want and work that way. We also know that we have to engage all of the agencies that help them. Some of them have mental illness, some of them have addiction problems, some of them just can't find a place to live. And so all of those things are things that we need to address. I care deeply about the environment. I'm a horseback rider, which is sometimes not so good. But honestly, we have to look at our environment. We have to see how we can stop some of the things that are happening. And that's why I keep going back to like e-scooters and e-bikes and things like that, because other communities have found this to be very helpful. During the summer, during the winter, it's a different thing. So, of course, right? But they have really found that they have reduced emissions by using these two things, just two things. And so that's some of the things I'd like to see. And as I have said, things about some of the projects that we're looking at. Some of them, I honestly don't know what the process was behind them. Why are they doing this here? Why are they, planning it now when it might be way in the future? And so I really we have to communicate with people, and we have to do the projects that we need now. We have to prioritize. And if we don't need it today or tomorrow, even next year and 5 years down the road, let's concentrate on what we need now. I've heard some things about, roundabouts, and they're really good, but some of them are not going to happen for many years. And so we're spending $200,000 on designs for 3 roundabouts, and some of them are not going to be used. So let's stop and think about that. Also, let's think, things are going to change. As soon as the Trans-Canada Highway goes through, a lot of people may have some different routes that they take. So when it comes to roundabout, let's just stop. That's only one thing, but let's just stop and think about it. And let's consider, what do we need now, and spend the money where we need it now. We can plan for the future. That's really good. So, okay, in the future, we might do this. But sometimes things change, and then you say, oh, okay, well, now we have to change what we were going to do. So let's just stop and think and consider, and let's engage the public. I know we got a huge grant it was called a COVID restart grant. So what did we do with it? Did we talk to the public? I didn't hear anything, but maybe I missed it all. But they came up with a long list of priorities, and some are, maybe that's all okay. Maybe that's what the public wanted. But I didn't see where we were engaged. That was a lot of money, and I have to go back again to some areas of town that are not being treated quite equally, because I see places in Canoe that need sidewalks, and here we are, we're building a new sidewalk, a second big, beautiful sidewalk right in front of the school district office. Okay, what about the kids on the street? Let's think about them. So those are the things that I'm going to be looking at and prioritizing and looking into it and also talking to residents. That's how I found out about some of the sidewalks that weren't in, that kids were walking on the street instead of sidewalks where there was no sidewalks in Canoe. So that's the kind of thing I'm going to engage everybody and prioritize. If we're not going to have something for a very long time or need something for a very long time, I'm not going to spend money on it. We can start looking towards it, but maybe it'll change. You never know because of the way things actually develop. So think of me on October 15th and vote Cooper for council, for mayor.
Thank you. Alan Harrison.
Salmon Arm is open for business. The rebranding of our city has brought a whole new awareness, both provincially and beyond. This rebranding, growing a culture of diversity, creativity, and innovation, is powered by our own economic development arm of the city. Collaboration between groups, agencies, government, and business is the key. And no one in the province does it better. Our target will be the attraction of young families. All of our decisions, whether about housing, policing, recreation, or childcare, need to keep this demographic in mind. So what does the young couple living in a metropolitan area and seeking a new quality of life, what are they looking for? A number of things, but I'll highlight two. Number one is a safe place to live, to raise their families. And that's why we are continuing to add to our enforcement agencies as we grow. A second very important one is outdoor opportunity. Build it and they will come. Visit the South Canoe Trail Hub, where continual trail improvement has happened, full of young people on bikes. Walk the Foreshore Trail, where we added a significant section last year. Everything from buggies to scooters. We spent time, my wife and I, at Canoe Beach with our granddaughters this summer. They loved it. Lots of kids to play with there on the newly added Gorman-sponsored playground. Larch Hills. Well, many kids go whipping by me on those amazing trails. And with lights, they can ski at night. And finally, the soccer and baseball happening in our fields. With greatly improved facilities, they are crowded with families. So what are my priority projects for the next 4 years? Well, they are the projects that we have heard from you. These projects are on the top tier of our newly minted strategic plan. The rebuilding of Lakeshore Road from 20th to town, complete with a parallel multi-use path. Canoe Beach. This is our beach. This is the one that families use. We need to fund it. Fire smarting. As the climate heats up, smoke blows into the city, we get anxious and unsettled. We need to prepare before fire comes. And finally, sidewalks, trails, and bike paths. The people of Salmon Arm love to travel in these ways. We have a plan, we need to fund it. So tonight I've spoken with you about projects and about economics. However, I think the most important thing to consider in any election is leadership. You, the voters, are going to elect a group of individuals to our council. The job of the mayor is to pull those individuals together, to help build a culture of respect, to encourage discussion and debate of ideas and opinions, to build a team that, regardless of the individual philosophy, will pull Salmon Arm forward. And perhaps the most challenging part of this, and I take my hat off to those who are on council presently, when the voting is complete and the decision has been made, we move together forward. A second equally important job for the mayor and council is building relationships. Over the past 4 years, we have worked hard at this. Relationships with our Indigenous neighbors, relationships with groups and agencies, relationships with cities and towns all the way up and down the valley, and relationships with provincial ministries and staffs. Cities our size need to collaborate to help solve the many complex problems we face. Our taxpayers, you, cannot shoulder those responsibilities on your own. Over this term, we have been incredibly successful at pulling in outside dollars to help with these projects. Relationships pay back. Despite the challenges thrown at us over the past 4 years, Salmon Arm has moved ahead. Your council has acted in an informed, a measured, and a thoughtful way. For strong leadership, continuing to lead Salmon Arm forward, on October 15th, vote Alan Harrison for mayor.
Thank you very much. And Luke Norrie.
He hit his 5 minutes bang on. That was good. Thanks, Alan and Nancy. My vision for the city includes a lot of things that were said here tonight. And the understanding that I have is that the city administration itself is an integral part to maintaining the continuity within the city, and the engineering department to ensure that the sidewalks are taken care of. There's already projects in place, and these things are going to continue regardless of what council is voted in and which mayor is voted in. I think there is a very important thing that I really want to address, and those are a few of the things are the housing security, the food security, the education security, our health security. So all these things are immediate things that are starting to show signs of decay and signs of lifelessness. We're hearing reports all over interior BC and including here of ambulance waits. Ambulances not even being able to reach people. Hospital waits, doctors, we can't find doctors. Our teachers are overwhelmed and understaffed and underappreciated. There's not enough police services. So these things are all immediate issues to me. And I understand everything on here, and I really agree that the infrastructure, the wastewater, the fire smart, these are all very important things to our community. But in the very short term, if there is continued disruptions to our supply chains, we're not going to have the food that we need at disposal. These are things that we need to address immediately. They need to be moved down to the short-term goals. Our food security, our health security, our teachers. And one way to do that is to immediately start discussing and collaborating with the farmers, the food producers in the entire region. And this is going to be a multi-municipality effort where we have to start taking down or at least re-looking at the bylaws that are holding back the producers, the farmers, from producing food and bringing it to our tables. We need to look at the bylaws that are restricting people from growing stuff in their own backyards and bringing those to market. So that's a huge part of this, and those should be forefront in the very short term. The housing security, same thing. There was talk earlier about having suites in houses. So if there are any bylaws that are being restrictive, even to entertain those, to remove certain things in the short term to allow us to kind of get ahead of the game while we are creating more and more developments to house people long term, we need to be able to allow more cottages, more suites. We also need to look at if there is any people that are having second homes in Salmon Arm. So I don't know what the rules are right now, but anyone that has a second home that wants to come here for 2 weeks for a good view is not someone that's really contributing to the city. So we need to look at every single aspect of the housing crisis and address it, I think, quite immediately, and that includes the homeless. For the teachers and a lot of other things that we need to address, this is where the idea of the community and civic duty. My wife got an email saying that they're now allowing teachers to invite people, adults, seniors, whoever, into the classes to help kids read, to help kids with their homework, to take kids out and do certain things. I don't know if this was on pause because of COVID, but these are things that we have to do as a community. Regardless of who you vote for up here, it doesn't matter who you vote for. When we go out there at the end of this meeting and tomorrow and the next day and after the election, we have to take it upon ourselves to actually engage in the community. Go to the community garden. We were there on Saturday. There's a cleanup in the food forest downtown here on the 14th and the 15th, right before the election. If there's something that we can do, we have to do it together as a community because we are going to solve the problems. And no matter who is voted into council, we have to realize that the 6 people and the mayor, including myself, if that happens, don't have all the answers. I'm not a farmer. I'm not a policeman. I'm not a nurse. And we don't represent everything and everyone. So this idea of bringing the community together through the town hall forums and actually having open debate, as well as one of my principal ideas is to have the online civic platform where it is bringing technology into our town and utilizing that technology with a server and creating the platform where we can speak our minds and we can contribute to the ideas of 10 more seconds of how we're going to change the course of action. Food processing and secondary manufacturing too, to bring good jobs. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, everyone. I just want to extend a huge thank you to all the mayoral candidates, the council candidates this evening, as well as a thank you to all of you who came and listened to them this evening. We would like to ask you to take a few extra minutes on October 15th to cast your vote in the municipal election. Advanced voting begins tomorrow and ends on October 11th at Salmon Arm City Hall. General voting day is October 15th at 4 locations in Salmon Arm: the Saskew Recreation Center, the Mall at Piccadilly, North Canoe Elementary School, and Glen Eden Hall. Thank you for being respectful of the time. We actually ended early tonight. So thank you, and have a great evening.